G'day, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Flat Tank Journey. If you watched last week's episode, you'll know I'm standing in the same place and shooting this footage at the same time. This video is the rest of the unpack and a look at the bike as a whole. By the time we get to the end of it, you'll have seen everything. And in the meantime, I'll continue to clean carbies with the ultrasonic cleaner. Hope you enjoy the video. I do love what people pack things in. I really do. So we've got the Two Towns Pinot Gris from the Adelaide Hills. Half a dozen bottles. And this box looks really promising. So I'm a bit excited about that. I'll get everything out and then we'll talk about it. Okay, here's the contents of the box. Now, I actually think I pulled this off the bike on the day I was there. I'll just move that stuff out of the road. Now, this is the clanger for me, and this is the only thing I was disappointed about with the bike. This is part of the oil sight feed bowl, and there's a bit broken off the bottom, and it's in the case, and it's really common. All broke off in the case, and it's a pain in the butthole. Now, I didn't know that when I went there. I found it when I went to disassemble the bowl to take it off because I thought it was complete. And I don't know that the guy would have been overly happy when I found it. Now, he said he'd run the engine with it like that in. I find it a little bit difficult to imagine, but I'll accept him at his word for now. Now, I actually have another one of these that I bought when I did the 27. So I've got a spare, but getting the broken bit out of the case is actually a really dreadful job. In any stretch though, that's a really good part to have because you have the nut, you have the clip that holds the knob, you have the top knob, you have the top nut, the two screws, the oil feed and the top nut. Now I'd pay decent money for that at a swap meet. If I really wanted all the parts, I might pay $100 for it. But I'm a nut. I really value those parts because damn, they're hard to find when you want them. And so that goes into the precious pile with me of all those oil sight feed parts. A washer and another gudgeon pin. Now this one looks a bit rough. Oh, it might be just a top coating. Actually looks bent. No. Gudgeon pin. So that can go in. And that sews into having the better part of two motors. Now, a piston. The piston's a bit worn. And the gudgeon pin is probably, not too bad. Not too bad. Can't get it to move. But it does go in easy, which is always, I thought they were meant to be a tighter fit. What does it do in the barrel? Oh, not bad. For an old slapper. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, piston, gudgeon pin, and a barrel. Now this barrel doesn't actually look too bad. It's certainly dirty inside and needs a hone out. It's got two exhaust nuts on it and the spark plug in the middle, which inevitably I always change out because I want to. Because I'm going to put the spark plug back where it should be, because I think that looks right. Anyway, so I can do that straight away. See, I've started the restoration. Spark plug in the middle, and the spark plug's going to go over there. And if I had a primer cup, I'd put it in. It doesn't look too bad. There's not too many broken fins. There's a broken fin here, and a tiny bit off, and a tiny bit off. The rest of it is not too bad, including the valve springs, the keepers, and the original tapered pins that go through to hold it together. I think that's actually really a nice barrel, and I'm guessing that if I offer that carby to it, that's the correct carby, or it goes over. On a really promising note, we appear to have a complete carburetor, complete with all sorts of little adjustment nuts that show me where everything goes. So that's really super, and I'm quite enthusiastic about that, including the oil feed bowl. Yeah, and that goes on. See, again, I'd pay pretty reasonable money for that if I wanted one. If I had to go and hunt one up, I'd feel good about paying for that. I'm a bit excited. That's a good result. Really happy with that. Happy with the carburetor. It's probably worn out and needs completely rebuilt. But you know what? It's there. It's complete. Right down to these nuts on the side. Little adjustment clip, which is kind of fab. And maybe I'll show you that in more detail later. It looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Going to put that with my carby chunks. And the barrel, I think I'll just stick that behind me. Time for more, I reckon. I'm back with another pile. Now, we've got another barrel here. And this barrel actually looks pretty good. And there's a piston wedged inside it. Well, not wedged. There's a piston in it that you'd sort of hope was nice. And it is. And see, I would have said that's a nice fit. And with rings, you'd get that to fit properly. Now there is a top ring on it. I like that. This barrel seems to be in good condition. It's got a broken fin here. The rest of the fins at a first glance look good. The barrel looks good. And I wonder whether this was meant to be the rebuild barrel. Hard to say. Put that behind me, and I think I'll pop the piston that was with it back in. Yeah, that feels good. Now, the guy that sold it to me was very upfront and said this was an attempt to make a set of footrests. Now, they vaguely resemble an original set, so I'm not going to criticise him for that, because I think he may have done a reasonable job, and we can hope for the best with those. Yeah, they always disappear from bikes, weirdly. Set of engine plates, handy to have. They've got the 3 rifles on them, and they've got R and maybe right hand side, and this one's got LH and P. I don't know what the P's for, or maybe it's R. Anyway, pair of engine plates there for the back, of course, and the gearbox sits in here. Like them, they're good. Plate that's off the front guard. Now, I've got a really manky front guard, and I'll show you that, but it's a bit ordinary, but that's the plate that sandwiches the fork legs. Nice to have. Oh, wow. Another of the oil feed taps. Now, I searched for a year, I reckon, for an original one, and there's 2 of them in the tub. Now, this one's missing the arm, but you could remake that. Again, that's really super. So I was into, someone had 2 complete engines with this bike. Weird, no wheels, 2 engines. Don't know. Good result. Wheel spacer, and, well, looks like a wheel spacer or just a piece of pipe. Hard to say. Now, in the bottom of the tub is all sorts of, I'm going to call them smalls. Some of it could be precious. There's bearings, there's washers, there's a holder, there's grease nipples, and I need to clean all that up and get it all out of there and keep it. But, you know, the ice cream container's done a good job. Going to put that in there. Another plastic bag with, well, timing gears, I suppose we could generically call them. Put that in there. I don't know what that one does. Of course, these are cam gears, and they look all right. That one's a bit worn on the cam. This one less so, but I think they clean up okay. Pinion gear or timing gear, or I don't know what these are called. I always get them wrong, so, you know, don't abuse me if I get them wrong. Just tell me what they are. And this is the pinion off the crankshaft, I think, that then turns this, that turns those, and it all works or something. Gonna call it good. Somebody thought enough of it to put it all in a bag, and I'm pleased they did. That's a super little collection of parts, and I'm getting towards the end of the smalls, but I'll go and see if I can find some more stuff to show you. Here's another pile, and the pile on the bench is getting a bit big, isn't it? Just move some of that out of the road. Okay, let's start with an engine case. So immediately I can see it's been broken and repaired. Who knows why? Could it be used? Probably. Has it been used? Well, probably it has. It's pretty clean on the other side. Oh no, it's had a monumental repair on the bottom. Again, none of that surprises me because a lot of these broke. People were prizing parts off them, and somebody will have prized a part out of here and broken it. So that'll be that pinion gear that was there on a bush through the crank, and they've prized it apart. And yeah, I've done it myself. I've broken bits off, and then you hate yourself. But anyway, it's been repaired, and would it clean up? Yeah, it probably would. Don't look too bad. There's certainly studs, smalls, bushes, and bits and pieces on it that I can see would be useful. These hold the priming chain case on. So, you know, that's a victory. I like that. I'll leave the tank till last. That's the gear change lever. This one is a bit beaten up, if I was honest, but it is the gear change lever, and it does have the Bakelite knob on it. I think it's pretty good. Can it be cleaned up and saved? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably. I don't know whether that's bent at the top or whether it's meant to be like that. I kind of think it's bent, but I need to look further into that. I'm still excited to have it. It wasn't with the bike when I went to pick it up, and I asked him for it, and he went and found it. It's just riveted on to the gearbox. Weird, but anyway, that's how they did it. Here's the seat that I got with it, and I'm hoping to be able to put the seat all back together, including the springs, and get the seat back on the bike. I've got a guy, I suppose Daryl in Geelong could make me a cover. Don't know what he thinks without a pattern, but I actually think the seat frame's all right. Blast, paint, put back together, that'll be a winner. Pair of flywheels. So one engine has been completely disassembled. Not really sure why. The other engine hasn't been. And we'll get to the other engine and bits and pieces. You've either already seen it or you're about to see it. Anyway, pair of flywheels. Not the worst thing to have. They can go on the bench. Now, this was a petrol tank, and somebody flattened it for a pattern. It's obviously moth-eaten at some stage. Everything's been sweated off it. The filler necks have been taken out. The oil pump fitting has been taken out. And yes, it's got rust holes in it. The front isn't as bad and could probably be saved. And the front's brass. This is the baffle that's separated the oil. I think the baffle gets sweated into there. Is what I think it is. Something like that. Anyway, the baffle's got a little hole in it. And fortunately, we don't need it. But you know, if somebody wanted a pattern or somebody was hung up about an original front, well, there's number 707, because they have a number stamped on the front. And I assume that's the front. Yeah. Anyway, there it is. Let's put that aside, because that's a big piece. Last piece is an oil fitting that, again, This piece, this tiny piece, is actually not that easy to come by. This is just copper pipe and I really don't care. But this is actually the difficult bit to get, and I'm pleased to have it, and I will keep it all together. And periodically I've sold parts to other people looking for BSA parts. Here's the meat and potatoes of the project. Now you've seen it laying in the back of the ute, and I've shot some footage of all the smalls as I pulled them out. But here's the chunk, or meat and potatoes I like to call it. 27 250 BSA Deluxe, or a wedge tank as I call them. 250cc, 3-speed box behind it, and you know, be a good little club bike. Small for a man of a fuller figure like me, but it is what it is. Front end looks nice. Got the spring in it. Frame looks good. Bottom end of an engine with a cush drive, and we'll look at the other side in a minute. Got a magneto, talk about that in a minute. Gearbox, kickstarter, clutch activation, gear change, and a clutch on it. Now, I don't know what sort of condition any of it's in, except that the engine, you can hear that, needs a rebuild. And you'd think that the box would need new bearings and a tidy up, wouldn't you? Rear of the frame looks good. Rear guard looks really good. Happy with that. Needs a few dents and scratches taken out of it, but you know what? That's a really solid guard for, what are we talking about? 96 years old. That looks good. Now the front guard, well, not so good. It's incredibly moth-eaten. Now that's laid on someone's shed floor for years and years and years and years, and it's rusted through in a great big chunk around here. And it's just, for me, that's shot to pieces. It's not worth repairing. Now weirdly, you can buy a perfect reproduction. So that's what I'm going to do. And we'll see that in a week or two, eh? Let me put that aside. Now, there's another 3/4 of a tank. The guy I bought the project off was pretty good, pretty honest about it. He didn't get this tank with the project. He got a bike with no wheels, no tank, couple of engines and bits and pieces, and he really never did anything with it. But he did say he went to a night class to start building a tank. He had one to copy. He had the pattern that you're going to see in a little bit from the original tank, because the original tank was shot to pieces, and he set about making a new tank. Now he's actually gone a long way. He's done a really good job, and he's got a long way into it. It's probably a pity he never finished it. I reckon it's got a couple of leaks down the bottom here, but you know, he's got a lot of the fittings sweated in. Now, I have another nose for it with the rest of the parts that you'll see, and he's done a good job of that. But then he's found an original tank. So I'll put this aside, eh? So this is really the chunk I want to work with. I think the tank looks okay. It's in primer and filler, but it's not super. They never are. They get knocked around, you know. All of the fittings are on the tank. I don't have an oil pump, and it should be a hand pump. Although it's got the, in 1927 it had the oil sight feed metering system on the bottom, and you're meant to not need the hand pump, but you do. So I'll need to find one of those. I've got one fuel cap, no oil cap, but they can be bought, so that's not the end of the world. Tank, other than that, looks quite good. It's got a fuel tap on it. The lever's missing off it, but again, could be replaced. The magneto. Now, when I'm looking at the project online, the magneto's bright yellow. Obviously wrong. Now, it does spark, and it is has got BTH on the top of it. So, you know, it's not out of the question to use it. I don't know whether this non-advanced retard section of the magneto can be taken off and blended with parts of another magneto to give you a complete unit. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. The guy that I bought off said he'd had the bike running at some stage off that magneto and it was okay. But there's no advance and retard, so that's probably not a good idea. There's an engine. There's actually two engines really, and you'll see the rest of it in a bit. This one needs a complete rebuild. The big end's pretty worn, or the bearings are worn, so we need some oversized bearings and an undersized pin or something. All that said, these cases don't look bad and they turn over. Everything's probably flogged out. Cush drive on this side, which is cool. It's pretty well tightened up. Sprocket is worn, but not too bad. 3-speed gearbox, that's the correct box. A clutch, single spring I assume inside there, but we'll pull that apart together at some stage. And a super rear guard. Frame looks like it's been painted and doesn't look too bad, so I'm not unhappy with that. I'm going to spin this whole thing around and then we'll have a look at the other side and you'll get a feel for it. And then I'll bring it in and show you the whole bike. Here's the other side. Now, you don't really need to see the front end, but the front end's complete. It looks to have the correct parts and it's only missing the nut on the top. It's even got the top nut. So everything looks okay. I emphasise the looks. Now, I don't have a set of bars and of course I don't have wheels. How do wheels get separated? Easier to wheel around. The engine cases look good. There's an oil sight feed bowl. Oh well, this is where it goes in. Now, the only thing I was disappointed with the bike was the oil sight feed bowl was screwed on. And I thought it was complete. I thought, oh, super. Anyway, to transport it, I took it off. Nah, it's broken off inside. And they always are. I don't think I've bought a bike with one that's in one piece. Now, I actually spoke to the bloke about it. He said, look, it worked just fine. He said it didn't spew oil everywhere. He said, I suggest you use it the way it is. I don't know about that. But anyway, it's there and it will screw back on. It's got the valve tappets or risers or whatever you call them in it. And that's super. It's got the brake pedal and the mount and the spring. Extremely relieved to see it in place. You can buy them, they're quite dear, but it's there and it's where it should be. And after the saga of the brake pedal with the rally, I was pretty pleased about that. Now, the gear change mechanism is all in place, and even down to this is a spring-loaded centre to help you move between the gears. I've got a gear lever. It's pretty tired though, but it might clean up and go back on. The clutch activation shaft is in place, but it's been broken off, which is, I don't know. It's par for the course, eh? You get what you get. The gearbox looks okay. It's got a Kickstarter in place, but up here, the pedal is actually, I'm going to change sides so I don't tip this off. Up here, the pedal is actually, I'd say, an old bolt that somebody's welded in. And maybe this is a bicycle crank, now that I'm standing here looking at it. Wouldn't that be funny? Could be. This could be a bicycle crank. Hard to say. Unless the Kickstarter's perfectly straight. Don't know. Have to look at that. That's an odd one. Just noticed that. Lovely piece of beach towel or bath towel. Poked into the top of the gearbox, and it's a bit dirty in there. But we'll put that back in, and that'll all be super. Back here, end of the frame, and all of those parts look all right. There you go. There's my little Wedge tank. 1927 250 BSA Deluxe. Let me know what you think. I'm happy with it. I don't have the world in it. I haven't paid mega money for it. And you can let me know what you think. You've seen all the smalls and all the bits and pieces that go with it. Take two. there you go. That's a wrap up of the new project bike. I'm going to work on this while I chip away at big issues and little issues on the rally. This is the real world. This is what it takes. The rally's going well and I'm not unhappy with it, and you'll see more of it. But it takes time to get these last things done. Gearbox is going to be repaired or looked at, and then we'll try the engine, and the engine could go the same way. So that's going to take some weeks. So let's hoof into this, because this is the bit I really enjoy, putting parts together and seeing what we've got. Let me know what you think of the new project. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your mates. Love to hear from you. Cheers. Have a good one.